So in today's snapshot, I will, as I said, I will show the server synchronization, a new feature that came with StableNet 10. And actually, starting right away, I'm here showing a StableNet system as known to every one of you. So it's just we'll need this later. So this is the SN Sync server master. So it's my master server, but it's basically a normal StableNet server. With the normal functionality, you know, and this will be the base for the synchronization. And just showing here as a dashboard again, I'm showing here the structure of that server. So we have in this case just one agent, as it's a small demo server, but there could be obviously several agents. We have our StableNet server, and we have our StableNet database. And now jumping right into the first use case with synchronization, the first thing I want to do here is doing a backup of that server using the new synchronization script. So I'm actually doing an incremental backup of the previous backup that I did to update all the new data that's in the system to a second database running on a separate server. And to that end, I'm going here on a console. So I'm already logged into that server. And I'm here just showing you which path I'm in. So I'm currently in the directory opt StableNet snmw config. And in that directory, I actually have one file, which is my sync config full backup properties file. In this case, this is a very simple synchronization config with only the minimum necessary information. I have a data source name. That's the place where I'm actually doing my synchronization to. I will show you in a moment the second file where this is being configured. And then I have some general options that logging is enabled for this synchronization. The user rights are also synchronized. The jobs are synchronized. It shouldn't abort on errors, just to at least synchronize the rest. And the data is also synchronized. So that's the minimum setup I have here. And now I'm opening a second file, which is in the deploy path, which is called sync backup XML file. The details about this, of course, can also be found in the documentation. And if you look at the second line here in this file, you actually see that this is where I configured here, where I defined the StableNet backup DS as data source. And this is going to another server, which is IP 116. I'm currently on 114. And that's all I need for the minimum configuration. Now I'm actually starting this with the StableNet management tool on the console. I'm triggering an on-demand sync of the database with this configuration that I just opened. To that end, I'm logging in again here, providing the credentials. And that's all it needs. So now it's synchronizing. And while this is working, I'm actually jumping here to my server, looking in the server log. And we can actually see here in the server log that something's going on here. So it's currently starting the sync, and it's currently working on the different tables. And the synchronization is working. So we see that for most of the entries here, most of the tables, there are no changes, as this is a small system. But we also see that for some of the systems, like the SN device info I saw here, different entries are synced. And this is now running. In this case, it's not taking so long. So let's just wait for a second, for another half a minute maybe. And we see that all the different tables are synced. So it's not impacting the system. It's syncing directly to a separate database. The separate database, in this case, actually, there's no StableNet server behind it. So it's just a backup, not to a running system, but just as a big backup. And now it actually says that in total, it updated 175,000 rows, and it was successful. It's successfully finished. And I'm now going back for a second to the console, and we actually see that it says database sync is finished. So that was the one example of a synchronization I wanted to start with, just a full backup, backupping everything. And now I want to elaborate a little bit more on a second example with a bit more specific settings. And to that end, I'm again first going to my master server. So here we see again my StableNet master server. And I'm now showing an extended weather map here in my dashboard, which is actually including the parameters of the synchronization. So we have again our agent, our server, and our database. And now in addition, we actually have a second database of the sync slave, so of the slave system, which is actually run in parallel. And this synchronized system is actually getting the data from the server. The measurement data is directly getting there live through the agents. So the agents are directly pushing it to both databases. And the metadata is with every maintenance or with every on-demand trigger, it's actually committed as well to the database. And we have here also a second StableNet server. So now, before showing some of the specifics here, let me just first quickly jump in the configuration again. So I'm still in the same folder, just clear my output here. And I'm now actually opening a second file. In this case, I'm open the sync config properties, the second one that I have. I'm here syncing to a StableNet sync DS. The other one was StableNet sync backup DS. And I have some more parameters here, as you can see. So in this case, I'm not syncing everything, but I'm actually not syncing agents. I'm not syncing monitors. I'm not syncing weather maps and tag filters. And also I'm excluding further tables here for tag trees and for dashboards. So that means in this specific case, I actually have a reporting system as the sync slave. So it's a second system where I'm not reporting everything around, not syncing everything around alarms and monitors, because this is for live monitoring and this is not needed in the reporting system in this use case. But I'm synchronizing all the measurements and all the data. And this is a possibility to have a second system, which is standalone, which is independent of the other system, where you can, for instance, do heavy reporting, statistics, and so on, without at all impacting the main system running. So this is also a nice use case. If you, for instance, as some of our customers had, they didn't want to monitor the data twice using SNMP and other protocols. So they have just agents in the master system. In the slave system, they don't have any agents. They are just working with the data provided by the master system. And so this is the synchronization file. And the second file is actually almost uninteresting because it's actually the same as before. It's just different in the first two lines. So here the name of the data source is StableNet Sync DS instead of StableNet Sync Backup DS. And the IP address of the target is 115 instead of 116. Other than that, there is no difference. And now in this case, I'm not going to start that synchronization manually, but in this case, as the file is actually called sync config properties, which is the predefined name according to the documentation, this is automatically run every night with the maintenance. So this is done fully automatically, and I don't need to trigger it on demand. So now let's look a little bit more what the specifics are of this setup. To that end, going a last time here for now to the master, and then I will switch to the slave. So as I have said, we have the two systems. And maybe the first thing interesting to look at here is, so I'm monitoring the states for both of the systems. And I'm here with the StableNet self-monitoring. I'm actually reading out the number of devices of the master and the slave. And you can actually see that in the master and in the slave, you both have 44 devices. So the devices are synchronized. This means that during the last time until midnight, there have not been any new devices. The measurements, there are two more measurements on the master, which actually means that there are two new measurements that have been added since yesterday night. And you can see that there are no monitors in the slave system. As I have mentioned, this is a system where we are not looking into monitors. And now I think I talked enough about that. Let's now just jump to the slave system. So here I was on the master system, and I'm now jumping to the slave system. So I have a StableNet GUI open on that system. And what I can actually see is, first of all, if I'm going to the normal measurement tree, I actually see that I have the same data as in the other system. So everything is here as well. Obviously, it's not colored because in this use case, I'm not synchronizing the monitors and the alarms. But if I just pick any arbitrary, here the self-monitoring, for instance. If I'm opening the analyzer, I see that I still have all the data. So the data is available, can be used for any kind of statistics, reporting, and so on. Now let's maybe look, go through that one by one. So first of all, the dashboards here on the right side, I can see here that I don't have the same dashboards that I have on the master system because I specifically did not clone the dashboard, not sync the dashboards. That's a specific desire here of this setup. But I can also configure my own dashboard. So here I have a reporting dashboard specifically for the data center. And of course, I still have the possibility. Now, let's say I want to have this one dashboard here about the sync health also in the slave system. So I can just very intuitively go to my dashboards here, take that synchronization health, export it to the file system, and just saving it here in that demo folder. And now if I'm going here to my dashboards and do an import from the demo folder, I can actually import it. And here we are. Okay, in this case, the weather map, because this is a weather map based dashboard, I just need to adapt here the weather map. So I'm picking the, I synced this before, it's here. So here's my weather map and here's my dashboard. If I'm not using a dashboard which is using a weather map, but I'm using dashboard with tables, it will work right away. But you can see, so there is here with the import export functionality, I can still move individual dashboards, but I don't have, I'm not syncing everything automatically because this is not wanted. And I also want to configure here my own dashboards. Another thing I can show here is that if we look at the tag trees, I have two specific tag trees for reporting, which are only in this system, but I don't have, for instance, all the tag trees that I have here in the monitoring system. So again, same idea. Let's say I want to have those this use case data center tag tree, for instance. I can export it and save it to the folder. And then in the target system, in the slave of the synchronization, I can import it again. Use case data center. Here we are, it has been added. And now I can also use it. So the same here for the tag trees. And maybe last example, I think you understood what I'm up to. If I take the tag filters, here I have a lot of tag filters. Maybe I just in this case want all of them. I'm exporting them again as tag filters to the file system. And in my target system, tag filters, I don't have any right now, but I can just import all of them at once. So this is also working. So once more, the use case is I specifically don't want to synchronize everything because I want to be independent on the target system, but you have seen now that there are possibilities to transfer some of the things individually. Now, maybe real quick, it's the same for reports. I will not show this again with import export, but I'm just opening here a report. So I have here one report which is on the master, and I have one report which is on the slave. And if you are actually looking here, we have data in both reports. And we can also see here that there's a new virtual machine here, which is not in this one. This is the measurement which has been added since yesterday night. So we saw that there are two more measurements. So this is precisely this. Now, the last thing I want to show is maybe real quick here, again, illustrating, going back here to the master server. I'm now illustrating again, this synchronization by actually looking at the self-monitoring of StableNet. So here I'm going to self-monitoring of the slave and of the master and picking both of these measurements in the analyzer. As you can see, there's a lot being monitored. And now for the two monitoring scripts, I will on both systems open the measurement count on the slave and on the master. Plot this. And here you can actually see, so I'll just change the order to have the monitor, the normal, the master on the top and the slave on the bottom. So here, if you look at this, you can actually see, just jumping here dragging in with the zoom. So you can actually see that on the measurement count of the master system, the red curve here has been increased at 9 p.m. to this has been increased to 710 because I added a new measurement yesterday night, and then I actually on demand started the maintenance here, which actually synchronized both systems. So this is manually triggered, and I'm just jumping here to the last, let's say the last 60 hours. And then you will also see a case where you have let's take the last 80 hours. Then you will have, I'm looking for this. Yeah. So here you have a second example where you have the, for instance, here there have been, yeah, exactly. So there have been, for instance, changes on the on the measurement system, on the master system, in the measurements during the day, and at midnight there was a synchronization. So as I said, the measurement data is coming in right away, but the metadata is normally synchronized once a day. And yesterday night I actually synchronized this manually after some changes, so you saw this quicker. I think that gives a quick overview of the different functionalities. So summing up, we have the possibility with a command that I used here some commands ago with sync database to do this on demand. And for instance, with a full backup to another database, or we have the possibility to configure this with the sync config properties file, with this one up here, to be a part of the regular maintenance. And maybe this is also the last call I'll conduct here, just in the right folder. If I'm running the maintenance, then this is also synchronizing now these two measurements that will be missed. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much. And I think we can stop the recording.